I feel like I seen that a shift to the kind of identity of the individual who's writing and performing the piece of poetry. I see a lot of pieces with that thread. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I just wonder why that change has happened. You know, I mean, you may not agree with me on that.
Yeah, it's definitely one to think about. I think because of how people consume poetry now, and because of how we look at and watch spoken word content, I feel that we have to define ourselves. We have to find our identity, our social identity, and everyone's got an opportunity to speak now, haven't they? We've all got miniature platforms, and they can have followers that engage and people that you connect with, and you can see what's hot, you can see what's lukewarm, you can see what's cold by putting it out there. And so I feel that people write now with that in mind sometimes, with social media in mind, with whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So there's actually a little bit of because original traditional poetry, which was the written word, wasn't it, in books. So no doubt that was your only outlet at the time, wasn't it? Just the written word, or performing that. And so now we've got so many kind of ways to get our word across that, we've all got, there's an ego at the center of all of us, and then there's the person. Your ego is your core, and your person comes from, I think, the Greek word persona, which is mask. So we project a mask, and so going back to your question, that our ego is in our core, and that can dictate how we write and how we present ourselves, as well as our persona, and the way that people are consuming that, our persona. We're all guilty of a little bit of indulgence.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I feel like there is that sort of what would you call it? Rise in a sense of poetry where it's more identity filled, and I feel like it's important, man, because one of the best shows that I've witnessed myself personally from a poet was a show by Jasmine Gardosi called Dancing to Music You Hate. And the reason why it was so powerful is because, she was telling a story through poetry, there was music behind it. The level of poetry and performance was just on a different scale, man. If you haven't watched it, if it comes to your town or wherever it is, wherever you are, please go and watch it. I'm not just saying that because she's a Birmingham poet, but it's absolutely insane. And I feel like something like that, which, the whole sort of show is about gender identity, something like that coming from a person who's grown through it, reaches a different demographic, reaches a different young person, you know what I mean? And I feel there's an importance to that. Gives another person a voice, and we gravitate towards people who have similar experiences to ourselves, and I feel like that's the beauty of putting your identity into your art, because it gives people sort of like an overview of who you are, but also does it mirror them as well, and at the end of the day, you can't really become what you don't see as well. So if you have somebody with, similar traits or similar battles and similar things that they've gone through or similar obstacles, and you've seen what they're doing, it gives you that sense of empowerment. It makes you believe that you can do it too, you can achieve, you can overcome, you can have a voice. And when you spoke about being a voice for the voiceless and your journey in general, people looking at you and seeing what you've achieved, it's like, raw. If Quincy can do it, I can definitely do it, So it makes it more real. It makes it more real. It's reality, because I feel like sometimes we can be caught up in the abstract stuff of poetry, where you're writing and, the words are great and the levels of lyricism and but then no one really gets anything from it. And there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, there's times for everything. But when you're putting you into your piece, it's a beautiful thing, because somebody there probably needed to hear it,
You're right in what you say as well. If you can concentrate on the technicalities of writing, but you can also become an amazing writer and not necessarily understand the technicalities. In fact, when you look back on what you're doing, you go, actually, was that pentameter? Was I doing this in stanzas? You didn't realize what you was doing at the time. You just kind of felt it. If I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to forget now. See silhouettes inside the smoke, shape-shifting like kaleidoscopes, all the S's, S. You know, I didn't know the word. What's the word? That's it, yeah? So, assonance. So you don't realise that he was doing that at the time. When you look back.
Alliteration?
Alliteration as well, and assonance.
Is it sibilance? Yeah.
All of that.
English 101.
Yeah, and that goes to show my point. You know, you can write reasonably well, but and it goes back again to saying, what was your chosen market? Was it written in a book, or was it? Because there was an element of snobbery with an Instagram poet, wasn't there? Oh, okay, you're just an Instagram poet, and people were kind of looking at people that were establishing careers, like Rupi Kaur and things like that, as a poet that established themselves on Instagram rather than in a published book.